Ever wonder how companies like Netflix or Spotify can push out updates all the time without, everything just breaking? Well, a huge part of that magic is a tool called Docker. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what it is and why it's such a game changer. So to really get why Docker is so important, we have to start with this phrase. It's a phrase that has caused more frustration and lost hours in the tech world than probably any other. You've definitely heard it, maybe you've even said it. It's the universal sign that something, somewhere, has gone very wrong. Yeah, behind that one little phrase is a whole world of pain. I mean, imagine you've spent days coding and it works perfectly for you, but then your colleague tries to run it and it just crashes. All because they have a slightly different software version. Or think about starting a new project and burning hours just wrestling with configurations. It's chaos, and that is the exact chaos Docker was built to fix. So how do we escape this nightmare? What if you could take your entire application, and I mean everything, your code, all the right libraries, all the settings, and put it all inside a kind of magic box? And then you could ship that box anywhere, to any computer, and it would just work every single time. Well, that's the core idea behind Docker. So, simply put, Docker is a platform that lets you build and run your apps inside these special boxes called containers. A container is just a standardized, totally isolated package for your software. The whole goal is consistency. Your app should run the exact same way on your laptop as it does in a testing environment or out in the cloud. Docker makes that a reality. To really get what Docker does, the best analogy, and it's a surprisingly perfect one, is the humble shipping container. No, seriously, this isn't just a cute metaphor. It's a fantastic way to understand how Docker completely revolutionized software delivery. Think about it. A physical shipping container can be filled with literally anything: bananas, cars, electronics, you name it. And because they're all a standard size, they fit perfectly on any standard ship, train, or truck. Well, Docker containers do the exact same thing, but for software. You can package up any application with all its little bits and pieces, and it will run on any machine that has Docker installed. It created a universal standard, just like those metal boxes did for global trade. Okay, so right about now, you might be thinking, hang on a second, isn't this just a virtual machine? And that's a totally fair question because they do sound pretty similar. But the difference between a Docker container and a VM is actually what makes Docker so incredibly fast and efficient. All right, here's the key difference. A virtual machine, or VM, has to pack an entire operating system inside of it. That is a lot of baggage. That's why VMs are huge. We're talking gigabytes in size, and they can take minutes to boot up. Docker containers are way smarter. They share the operating system of the host machine, so all they need to pack is the app itself and its direct dependencies. This makes them incredibly lightweight, often just megabytes, and they start up in seconds. It's a huge difference. Okay, so we get what Docker is and why it's so much leaner than a VM. But how do you actually use it? How do you get your code into one of these containers? Well, it all boils down to a really simple 3-step process that's at the heart of how Docker works. The entire workflow is right here. First, you create a Docker file. Think of this as a recipe, just a plain text file with instructions. Then you use Docker to build that recipe into a Docker image. This is like your read-only blueprint, a snapshot of your application. And finally, you tell Docker to run that image, and it springs to life as a Docker container. So it's like going from a recipe to a cake mix to a fully baked cake that's ready to go. All right, that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through a couple of quick examples to see just how powerful and surprisingly simple this whole thing is. Okay, let's say you're a developer and you need a MySQL database for a new project. Now, the old way, oh man, that was a pain. You had to download installers, click through a bunch of setup wizards, and mess with configuration files. It was slow and it cluttered up your computer. With Docker, you get to skip all of that. With Docker, it is literally as simple as these 2 commands. You don't even need to be an expert to understand what's happening. The first command just pulls the official MySQL recipe or image from the internet. The second one runs it as a container. And bam! Just like that, you have a fully working database running on your machine, totally isolated from everything else. No mess, no fuss. So running pre-built software is awesome, but the real magic of Docker is when you package up your own applications. Let's say you've built a web app and now you need to share it with your team or get it running on a server. And hey, does this look familiar? It's that same simple 3-step workflow. You write a Docker file to describe your app's world, you build it into an image, and you run it as a container. With these 3 little steps, you've created a portable, universal package of your app. You can give it to anyone, put it anywhere, and you can be 100% sure it's going to run the exact same way every time. That whole "it works on my machine" problem, it's officially solved. So we've seen the what and the how, but let's zoom out. Why does all this matter? What's the big picture here? Let's talk about the key advantages that have made Docker pretty much essential for anyone building software today. The benefits are just massive. First and foremost, you get perfect consistency. The "it works on my machine" problem is gone. Your app becomes extremely portable. You can move it from your laptop to the cloud without changing a thing. It's incredibly fast to start up and super efficient, so you can run more apps on the same machine. And because everything is isolated, you get better security and no more weird software conflicts. It's a total win. And this quote right here, it just nails how Docker changes the game for teams. Imagine a new developer joins your company. Instead of giving them a 20-page document for a week of setup hell, you just say, run this one command, Docker compose up, and in moments, they have the entire application, database and all, running perfectly on their machine. The boost to productivity is just enormous. At the end of the day, Docker is really all about taming complexity. By packaging your applications into these clean, standardized containers, it frees you from battling with system configurations, so you can focus on what actually matters, writing great code. It brings order to the chaos. So the question to ask yourself is, what's the first thing you're going to simplify by putting it in a container?